Have you ever paused to wonder why the Israel-Hamas war continues to escalate despite repeated calls for peace? This conflict, steeped in history and fraught with complexities, is far from a simple dispute. It's a tapestry woven from threads of political, religious, and territorial disagreements, each strand as significant as the last. It's a war that has seen ceasefires come and go, leaving in their wake a trail of destruction and despair. Yet amidst the rubble and ruins, stories of resilience emerge, stories of individuals who have borne the brunt of these attacks. In today's video, we journey through the timeline of this conflict and hear from those who have endured the brunt of the attacks. The Israel-Hamas conflict did not emerge from a vacuum. It has historical roots that date back many decades. The establishment of the State of Israel in 1948 marked a significant turning point in the Middle East. The creation of this new nation was seen as a victory by many Jewish people who had long yearned for a homeland. But for the Palestinian people, who had been living on the land, it was a catastrophe, an event they refer to as Nakba, or disaster. Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians were displaced, leading to a refugee crisis that persists to this day. Meanwhile, the State of Israel was growing, often at the expense of Palestinian lands. This led to numerous conflicts, not just between Israel and the Palestinians, but also involving neighboring Arab nations. The seeds of resentment and anger sown during these tumultuous times continue to fuel the conflicts we see today. Fast forward a few decades to 1987, and we see the birth of Hamas during the First Intifada, a Palestinian uprising against Israeli occupation. Hamas, an Islamist political organization and militant group, emerged as a radical offshoot of the Muslim Brotherhood. It rapidly gained popularity among Palestinians for its resistance against Israeli rule and its commitment to the creation of a Palestinian state. From its inception, Hamas has been in conflict with Israel. It's a conflict marked by periods of intense violence, including suicide bombings, rocket attacks, and retaliatory strikes. It's a cycle of violence that has resulted in a tragic loss of life on both sides, and one that shows little sign of abating. Understanding this history helps us comprehend why the situation has turned out as it is today. The timeline of the Israel-Hamas war is a chronicle of escalating tensions and ceaseless violence. Our journey begins in 2007, when the Hamas movement seized control of the Gaza Strip, leading to a blockade imposed by Israel. This blockade was criticized globally, with many viewing it as a collective punishment for the people of Gaza. Over the years, the blockade has intensified the humanitarian crisis in the region, amplifying the suffering of the people and setting the stage for a series of violent confrontations. Fast forward to 2014, a year that saw one of the most devastating conflicts in this ongoing war. An Israeli crackdown on Hamas in the West Bank, following the kidnapping and murder of 3 Israeli teenagers, led to a 7-week war. This conflict resulted in the death of over 2,000 Palestinians and 73 Israelis. It was a time of profound loss, with widespread destruction in Gaza. In the years that followed, periods of relative calm were punctuated by brief yet intense flare-ups of violence. Each of these episodes deepened the scars of war, fueling a cycle of resentment and retaliation. During these times, ceasefires were brokered, only to be broken, further eroding trust between the two sides. The most recent conflict in May 2021 was among the most brutal in years. It began with clashes in Jerusalem, quickly escalating into an 11-day war. Israeli airstrikes and Palestinian rocket fire resulted in the death of over 250 Palestinians, including many children, and 13 Israelis. The ceasefire that ended this wave of violence was a welcome relief, yet it left behind a trail of devastation and a population living in fear. In the midst of these conflicts, it's important to note the role of international aid. Countries like the United States and Qatar, along with organizations like the United Nations, have pledged to help rebuild Gaza. However, the challenge lies in providing this aid without allowing Hamas to rearm, a task that requires careful monitoring and cooperation. In this war, there is also a concerning aspect of child militarization. Reports of summer camps in Gaza, where teenagers are allegedly trained in combat skills, have drawn international criticism. Yet, this issue is not one-sided. There are also military-themed summer camps in Israel, raising questions about the militarization of children on both sides of the conflict. The timeline of this war is marked by a series of devastating conflicts, punctuated by brief periods of uneasy calm. Each episode, each ceasefire, each peace agreement contributes to the current state of affairs, a precarious balance between war and peace. This timeline paints a grim picture of a conflict that has taken a heavy toll on both sides. The voices of survivors often get lost in the noise of war. Today, we bring those voices to the forefront. The echoes of conflict reverberate long after the guns fall silent. They persist in the hearts and minds of those who have endured the unimaginable, the survivors. Their stories, etched in their memories, serve as stark reminders of the human cost of conflict. In the heart of Israel, we hear from survivors of Hamas attacks. Their stories are as diverse as they are heart-wrenching. A mother who lost her child, a teacher whose school was bombed, a teenager who saw his home reduced to rubble. Despite the different narratives, they all share a common thread: the profound physical and emotional trauma that follows in the wake of violence. In Gaza, too, the echoes of the conflict are loud and clear. Residents recount the horrors they have witnessed, the fear they felt during airstrikes, the sense of loss and despair that pervades their everyday lives. A father who shielded his children from shrapnel, a medic who worked tirelessly amid the chaos, a child who lost her entire family. Their stories are a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, even under the most challenging circumstances. These survivors, whether in Israel or Gaza, are more than just victims. They are a testament to human resilience, a call for peace, a reminder that beneath the political rhetoric and military strategies lie real people with real stories. Their experiences, their losses, and their hopes are a stark reminder that war is not just about territorial disputes or political ideologies, but about human lives and human dignity. The trauma experienced by these survivors goes beyond physical wounds. It is psychological, it is emotional, it is the constant fear, the nightmares, the anxiety, it is the loss of loved ones, the destruction of homes, the disruption of life. It is the pain of surviving while others did not. The harrowing experiences of these survivors underscore the human cost of this ongoing conflict. In the aftermath of war, the path to peace often seems elusive. The dust might settle, but the scars of conflict, both visible and invisible, remain. As we navigate through the rubble of the recent Israel-Hamas war, we are reminded that the line between victory and loss is often blurred, obscured by the harsh realities of human struggle and survival. In the wake of this conflict, we see international actors like the United Nations stepping up, pressing both sides for a ceasefire. Their efforts are not without challenges, however. Providing humanitarian aid while ensuring it doesn't fall into the wrong hands is a delicate balance to strike. The UN officials' tour of Gaza was a stark reminder of the devastation that war leaves in its wake and the pressing need for reconstruction and healing. Yet, amidst the wreckage, there is a glimmer of hope. Governments around the world, including those of Denmark, the Netherlands, and the United States, have pledged their support. Their commitment to helping the affected rebuild their lives serves as a beacon of light in these challenging times. But the road to peace is not merely a matter of reconstruction. It is also about addressing the root causes of the conflict, ensuring that the cycle of violence does not repeat itself. It's about criticizing the blockade that has been imposed on Gaza since 2007, and questioning the militarization of children on both sides. The aftermath of war is a time for introspection, for taking a hard look at the choices that led us here. It's a time to ask difficult questions, to challenge the status quo, and to seek solutions that are not just reactive, but proactive. As we reflect on the Israel-Hamas war, let us remember that peace is not only possible, but necessary for the sake of those who have suffered the most. For in the end, it is they who bear the brunt of our actions, and it is they who will inherit the world we leave behind.